What an incredible way to almost put a parenthetical opening and a parenthetical closing in the middle of these two surahs. Even a reader says, oh, we're ending where we started.
Assalamu alaikum. Before you begin this video, just quickly wanted to let you know that so much of the work on the Quran has been completed on Bayyinah TV. I want you to enjoy systematically studying the Quran from the beginning all the way to the end in brief and then in great detail. And to do that, I'd like for you to sign up on BayyinahTV.com. And once you appreciate what's going on in Bayyinah TV, I want you to become an ambassador for it and share that subscription with friends and family and give it as a gift also. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. I'm going to pick up from where I left off. And that is that these 10 surahs, in my estimation, revolve around 3 subjects. The first of them is the prophetic mission. The second of them I call family and women's issues. So for example, in Surah Al-Mujadala, a woman comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says, my husband called me his mother, what should I do? Because that was Arab custom. Sometimes the fight would be so bad. From today on, your back is the back of my mother, was his way of saying, we will never be intimate again. That's as disgusting to me as me being with my own mom. We're done forever. And that was called Dhihar. And there were opening ayat of Surah Al-Mujadala, which is 58, part of this surah series, that addresses that problem that they had in their culture. Right? And Allah gave a solution to that and how serious it is for Muslims to ever practice that kind of ignorance. Similarly, in Surah Al-Mumtahana, you'll find women that are migrating away from Mecca and they're seeking refuge in Medina and they've accepted Islam, but they were married to men who were still non-Muslim in Mecca. And now there are men in Medina who want to marry them. Sahaba that want to marry them. So what's the procedure for them to officially end the marriage that's with the non-Muslim guy in Mecca so they can start their new life in Medina? And also these women came to pledge the Prophet ﷺ their allegiance. And Allah did not mention a pledge for men in the Quran explicitly, like spelling out its clauses, but He did mention the pledge of women in Surah Al-Mumtahana, also called Mumtahina. Similarly, we're going to find in Surah At-Taghabun, inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum, from your spouses and your children are your enemies for you, which is an interesting statement for Allah to make. We're going to find, of course, Surah At-Talaq, which deals with women's issues, divorce. And then we're going to find Surah At-Tahrim, which is again women's issues. So over and over again, we're going to find either the prophetic mission, jihad, da'wah, loyalty, or you're going to find women's and family issues. So the question then becomes, what's the relationship between these two things? One place you can look at in the Quran that shows us the relationship between these two things is Surah Muhammad, which is not in this group, but the ayah is really interesting. Surah Muhammad is about the battle of Badr, pretty much. Okay, the first major battle of Islam. When you're going into battle, what are you thinking about? What's your objective? Victory, defeating the enemy, conquest, that's what's on your mind. And what does Allah say? فَهَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ أَن تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَتُقَطِّعُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ. And what will it be if you turn your backs from this battle? You're going to allow corruption to cause in the world and you will cut family ties. Allah's way of saying that even the battles of the Prophet ﷺ, their objective was to actually create a society that doesn't cut family ties. So the maintenance and the preservation and the flourishing of the family is actually one of the core objectives of even jihad. Even fighting on the battlefield, even the da'wah. That's why even in the beginning of the Quran, when Allah talked about the most corrupt people, He said, وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. They cut what Allah intends to keep connected and they cause corruption in the world. What is it that should stay connected? The relationships of the family. Surah Al-Anfal is all about battle. The whole surah is about battle. Guess what happens at the end? وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. And those of family ties, they have more rights to each other in Allah's book. Why is Allah mentioning family ties in a surah that's about the battle of Badr? And what's interesting on the flip side in Surah At-Tahrim, which is all about women's issues and family, save yourselves and your families from the hellfire. Allah gives the example of good women. Allah gives the example of bad women. Allah in the beginning gave the example of the Prophet's wives, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's all about women and family. And at the end of it, what does He say? Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu jahidil kuffara wal munafiqina waghlub alayhim. Prophet, fight the kuffar and the munafiqeen. Sometimes you're talking about family issues and somebody goes, brother, the ummah is bleeding, and you're talking about divorce and marriage. And you're talking about family? Yeah, because that's kind of how Quran talks about it when the ummah is bleeding. It's as if we forgot that one of the core objectives of the ummah, of this religion, is actually the preservation of family. I won't open my mouth more because I'm going to get really controversial with you this week. So that's okay. I'm leaving after this week, so I don't care. But there's a lot to share that you're going to see. Your world is going to turn a little bit upside down as this week carries on. Because I've decided to be unfiltered with what I'm convinced of. You're free to, I welcome disagreement. I welcome discussion. I believe that Muslims have lost the beauty of conversation. When we disagree with somebody, we just talk about them or talk at them, but not to them. And this is a problem. And it's rather childish. I love talking to scholars. I love talking to students, to the public, to non-Muslims, to atheists, not at them. And not about them. And so there's plenty of times where I'll say something and somebody will say, I have a thought about that. I disagree with you. And I'll end up agreeing with them. And that helps me grow. But if they say, you know what, I heard you say this, I'm going to make a video proving you wrong, talking about you. You're making a video. You could have just called me, bro. Or you could just send me a voice note and say, hey, what you said was really stupid and here's why. And I'll say, it's not as stupid as you thought, and here's why. And we can go back and forth on our reasons. And that's conversation. That's how things move forward. That's what I genuinely believe in. So once again, I will say things that you might find crazy and revolutionary or wild or misguided. You might. But that's okay. That's where I am now. And if you would love to guide me, please, I love getting guided. I love growing. I don't claim to have the knowledge, but I do claim that I'm committed to growth. Okay, but anyway, coming back to this. So there's A and there's B, right? The prophetic mission outside and the prophetic mission pertaining to family. Then there's C, spiritual reminders. Believe in Allah, believe in the messenger. Renew your faith in Allah, renew your commitment to the messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Iman. Iman billah, Iman bil Rasul, and thirdly there will be Iman bil Risala also. Renew your faith in the revelation. So you'll find in half of these surahs you'll begin with the tasbih of Allah. يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ. When you hear tasbih, what is it renewing? Your faith in Allah. Then you'll hear ayat like آمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا. Right? Yeah. So over and over again. آمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ فِيهِ. Believe in Allah, believe in the messenger, believe in the revelation. قَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ ذِكْرًا. So there are these spiritual reminders that keep coming up. So that's your A and your B and your C. And where do you find these ABCs? From Surah Al-Hadid all the way to Surah At-Tahrim. From 57 all the way to 66. Now watch this quickly. The first subgroup, there's 10 surahs, but we're going to look at the first 4. That's Hadid, Mujadala, Hashr, and Mumtahana. 58, 57, 58, 59, and 60. I won't go into too much detail. You'll do your own reading to appreciate this more, but I'll point you in the right direction. Surah Al-Hadid begins with 6 ayat, unusually 6 ayat that just talk about Allah. It's just talking about Allah. Over and over again, learning more, like describing Allah, then describing Allah more, then describing Allah more, then describing Allah more. And what He does. 6 whole ayat in a Madani surah. Usually you find those kinds of ayat in Makki surahs, where Iman is the main subject. In Madani surahs, you talk about law, you talk about social issues, you talk about jihad, you talk about those other things. Basically A and B, right? But there's a huge chunk of C in the beginning of Surah Al-Hadid. And guess where else you find that? You find that at the end of Surah Al-Hashr. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. Alimul ghaybi wa shahadati huwa ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, Al-Salam, Al-Mu'min, Al-Muhaymin, Al-Aziz, Al-Jabbar. Which is, it's like the way Hadid began is the way Hashr is ending. And then you'll find in Hadid in the beginning, there's a huge discourse on believing in the messenger and spending. And you'll find in Surah Al-Hashr, in the beginning, you will find those who spend وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. You're going to find a huge subject of spending and sacrificing. وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Lots of ayat about spending and the sacrifice of the Muslims. So the mission of the Prophet ﷺ and Iman, both in Hadith and in Hashr. But what's really cool is the two other surahs, 58 and 60, really epic stuff happens. Briefly, in Mujadala, it opens with a women's issue and it ends with Muslim loyalty. I'll say that again. Mujadala 58 opens with women's issue and ends with what? Muslim loyalty. And what's the pair to it? Surah Al-Mumtahana. Guess what? It opens with loyalty and ends with women's issues. It flips the order. So it begins with لا تتخذوا عدوي وعدوكم أولياء. And halfway through, Allah starts talking about women's issue. إذا جاءكم المؤمنات مهاجرات فامتحنوهن. It's about women's issues. So there's this beautiful mirroring that happens in these 4 surahs. But how many surahs are in this group? There's 10 of them. This is just 4. So we have another 6 to kind of look at briefly. There's 61 all the way to 66. This is the scheme, okay? In 61 is Surah As-Saff. Allah will describe the objective of the Prophet against the enemy. The objective of the messenger against the enemy. He'll say, هُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. They're trying to blow out Allah's light. Allah sent His messenger so He will dominate. Right? So that's the objective against the enemy. In Surah Al-Jum'ah, Allah will describe the objective internally. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. That's the internal objective. So both of them are about the prophetic mission externally and internally, right? It's almost like Surah As-Saff is about the jihad and Surah Al-Jum'ah is about the da'wah. It's almost like that. And one is external and one is internal. On the other extreme, I colored the middle yellow, so I'll leave that for the end. On the other extreme are the 2 surahs we're looking at right now, particularly Talaq. Talaq and Tahrim both are about women's issues. So the first 2 are both majorly A, and the last 2 are majorly B. But the middle ones, both, Nifaq, Surah Al-Munafiqun is about hypocrisy, which is a corruption of your iman. And Surah At-Taghabun is about how to restore your iman. So the 2 surahs in the middle are about C. And if you look at this arrangement, you find something really special. If you really have iman, then you will be committed to the mission of the Prophet that is above, and you will be committed to family guidance that is below. So the test of your iman is above you, above these 2, and the test of iman is also below these 2. And this is beautiful arrangement between these 3 subjects that distributes throughout these 10 surahs. And again, I'm giving you a very bird's eye view, but if you start digging in, man, you just get blown away at how intricate these connections are. I'll just give you one of them. What was the first of these 10 surahs? Hadid. What's the last of these 10 surahs? At-Tahrim. Watch this. In Hadid, Allah says, the day of judgment will come and believers will come walking. يَسْعَى نُورُهُمْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ. Their light will come from in front of them and from their right. On Judgment Day, believers are walking and there's a light coming from their chest and coming from their right. Okay, this is in Surah Al-Hadid. The only other time this is mentioned in the entire Quran is in Surah At-Tahrim. نُورُهُمْ يَسْعَى بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَتْمِمْ لَنَا نُورَنَا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا. Their light will be coming out from their chest and their right hand saying, Ya Allah, complete our light. So that scene of light being completed was in the beginning of these 10 surahs, and that scene is again at the end of these 10 surahs. What an incredible way to almost put a parenthetical opening and a parenthetical closing in the middle of these 2 surahs. Even a reader says, oh, we're ending where we started. It's ending where we began. It's really beautiful how the Quran does this. And the more you become a student of this, the more it dawns on you that the design of the Quran, the sequence of the Quran is not accidental. And the next thing, inshallah, as the days continue, you're going to see even the design of the surah. Inside the surah we're going to go, inside Surah At-Talaq, there's an incredible design inside the surah too. But we'll get there when we get there, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. There are almost 50,000 students around the world that are interested, on top of the students we have, in studying the Quran and its meanings and being able to learn that and share that with family and friends. And they need sponsorships, which is not very expensive. So if you can help sponsor students on Bayyinah TV, please do so and visit our sponsorship page. I appreciate it so much and pray that Allah gives our mission success and we're able to share the meanings of the Quran and the beauty of it the world over.